Welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns, and this video is about the gun I was just shooting, my big bore Snubby, which is an end-frame Smith & Wesson in .45 Colt. Now, there's a little bit of backstory. I like big bore Snubbies, and how that happened was in the late 80s, I was cruising around and stopped at a garage sale in my neighborhood, and in the course of conversation, it was revealed that the person running the garage sale had inherited a handgun and he didn't want it. And would I be interested in looking at it? I said yes. And I looked at it, and it was an Astra Jovino Terminator, which is a snub-nosed .44 Magnum, which I thought was maybe the stupidest gun I had ever seen in my life. And, I knew what they were worth, and I told him, look, I can't make you a reasonable offer on this. I didn't really want the gun anyway. But he said, make me an unreasonable offer. And I knew I could turn it for far more than I had in my pocket. So I made him an unreasonable offer, with him understanding that this was not anywhere near what the gun was worth, and he accepted it. In fact, I checked to make sure the gun wasn't stolen. So I had a gun, and my intention was to go turn it for twice what I'd paid for it. Except I thought, oh, hey, I've got it. I'll just buy a box of .44 Special and go shoot it. Big mistake. It was awesome. The trigger was fantastic, and it felt good in the hand. But the .44 Specials, recoil was quite manageable, and even with .44 Magnum, it wasn't as bad as I'd expected. And I absolutely loved it, which I hated because I still thought it was just a stupid gun. But love knows no reason, and I loved it, so I kept it until circumstances dictated that I could not keep it anymore. And I've regretted parting with it ever since, and I've wanted a big bore Snubby ever since. And nothing I've gotten since has quite scratched that itch. So, this year, I started making this, well, actually last year now, I started making custom handmade revolver grips, and I needed an end frame to model the grips. So I got this. This is a Brazilian contract model 1917. It's in reasonable shape, pretty good gun, and it shows off the grips quite well. And I really wanted to make it into a Snubby, but I need people to be looking at the grips, not the gun. And if I interfered with it much, they'd be looking at the gun instead of the grips, and that would defeat the purpose, and blah, blah, blah. So, turned out a friend of mine had a 1917 that was surplus to need. And then it turned out he actually didn't have a 1917. What he had was a second model hand ejector that had been sold to the British and was chambered in caliber .455 originally. When it was re-imported, they polished the ever-loving hell out of it and refinished it and bored the chambers to .45 Colt under the theory that it would be more likely to sell that way in the U.S., and they were probably right. People in the U.S. don't do .455. Anyway, so I worked my evil will upon it, made it into what I wanted, which included putting grips on it, custom grips, also Gungala valves, and I knew that if I filled in the area behind the trigger guard, my finger would trail off the bottom, so I accommodated that by contouring the grips for my little finger, and it makes a very nice, very secure, and very comfortable grip. And comfort is not insignificant because recoil is not insignificant. Anyway, there's a lot more details to show you, so we're going to go to the tabletop. So when the British surplused this gun and it was sold back to someone in the U.S., some importer, they polished the ever-loving hell out of it. And you can see the British proof marks are pretty smeared, and there's no trace of the original Smith & Wesson markings, even on the frame. They're just all gone. And the serial number is still there, which is important. And For my purposes, I might have preferred to make this a round butt with the serial number right there. That was not going to happen because I have no desire to be better acquainted with the inside of a federal prison. So, the first thing I did was shorten the barrel as much as I reasonably could, which turned out to be about 2.9 inches. And then, of course, I fabricated and installed a new front sight and painted it orange. And the other major change I made was to the trigger guard, where I've scooped it away just a bit on this side so that when my finger is in the safe position and I want to move it onto the trigger, there's nothing in the way. Very quick, very nice. Very much what I want in a carry gun. Uncharacteristically for me, for a carry revolver, I did not bob the hammer, which I normally would. And as you can see, this is the stock trigger. It's quite narrow, very smooth. And the trigger pull, again, we're still empty. The trigger pull it's not light, but it's very smooth, and it does stack towards the end, so you have to pull through that. And it's fine, though. It's a nice, despite being heavy, it's a nice trigger. And it's very easy to control and very good to shoot accurately. Single action is fantastic. It's an old Smith & Wesson, of course it is. So that's the basics of the gun. So I finally have my much coveted big bore Snubby, and I'm very happy with it. The thing is, you have to ask yourself in the 21st century, is this really the best tool for the job? I'm going to say probably not. The question for me is it a good enough tool for the job? For me, my circumstances, what I'm confident that I can do with a gun, I'm going to go with yes, it is good enough. For you, maybe not. Especially not if you're medium, normal sized, or small. This could be a chore to conceal and carry. It's big, it's bulky, it's heavy. And I have to say, recoil is not insignificant. And so, sure, you eat raw macho for breakfast, very good for you. You still got to consider how fast you can accurately get off follow-up shots, because you might need to. So, the best advice I can give is not to have one of these or to avoid having one of these. It's to have a realistic assessment of your needs and your capabilities. You know, look at your environment. Look at the circumstances of your daily life. Look at the threats you're likely to encounter. And have a realistic assessment of what you can do with your firearm. And choose accordingly. So, anyway, I love it. And it's my gun, so that's what matters. So, that's all I've got for this week. Until next time, stay safe and take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.